Good morning, student. I am Joginder Kumar. This is class 8, chapter 12 of geography. Chapter 11 of geography. The types of resources. What is a resource? A resource, any object that is useful to make the life of human beings comfortable, is a resource. Whatever we eat, use, even see around us is a resource which has been created from some types of resources. To be a resource should have to satisfy our needs, to be developed and used, be accessible to human beings, have some value, economic or social, suit the requirement of new technology and the level of development. Now, newsmaker. The Chipko movement was one of the first movements to set a major trend in environmental awareness. A landmark event in this struggle took place on 26 March 1974 in Uttarakhand. The participants in this movement practiced non-violent resistance. They hugged the trees to protect them from being felled. Now, the types of resources. First, we will see the flow chart. Here you can see the resources: natural resources, human-made resources, human resources. Natural resources. These are the gift of nature which are useful to us. These include soil, water, forest, wildlife and minerals. Human-made resources. These mainly include our technical expertise, government structure that may include the political and economic institutions, social and cultural setup, for example, houses and roads. Human-made resources or human resources. These constitute human beings themselves. We have to start the subdivision of the types of resources. You can see here natural resources. These are the two types on the basis of origin: biotic resources and abiotic resources. In biotic resources, the wildlife and vegetations. Abiotic, soil and water. Now we will discuss differently these from the next slide. Natural resources. Naturally occurring materials that support the life, such as water, air, sunlight. Resources that satisfy human wonder, such as the food, materials, minerals, fuels, are the natural resources. Now, classification of natural resources on the basis of origin and the stage of development. Now, first, biotic resources. Biotic resources are those resources which have life, for example, natural vegetation, forest, wildlife, aquatic system, both in the fresh water and the salty water. Now, abiotic resources. These are the resources which have no life. For example, settlement, soil for cultivation, water for survival, and minerals, etc. Now, the potential resources. These are the resources which not being utilized or developed at present fully. They may be developed and utilized in future. For example, solar energy, tidal energy, geothermal energy. Now, actual resources. These resources have been properly surveyed and associated and developed currently using by human beings. For example, iron ore, coal. This fully surveyed also extracted from Chota Nagpur Plateau are the actual resources. Now, the resources on the basis of renewability and the human-made resources. Renewable resources. Renewable resources are those resources which may be renewed or replenished in a shorter period of time. For example, solar power, wind energy, tidal energy, crops for cultivation, fisheries, wildlife, and water are some such examples to renew. They follow a cyclic process. They have the reproductivity attribute. Now, non-renewable resources. These are either not replenishable or may take millions of years to be renewed. Minerals and fossil resources, fossil fuels are some such examples of non-renewable resources. Now we will discuss about human-made resources. Human-made resources are those resources which are not natural but are made by human beings themselves with the use of his technology and the use of his mind. These resources are also called cultural resources. The primary include our technology, expertise, the government structures, political and economic institutions, our social and cultural setup are its some examples. Now we will see human resources. Human resources constitute human beings themselves. Without human beings, no gift of nature can be developed and utilized as a resource. Along with the educational expertise, a healthy human population helps in a region economic and social development. Human resources are assessed both in terms of quality and quantity. There are two aspects to be considered in determining their importance. First, there must be enough human to exploit the natural resources. Second, they must have the technique to utilize resources in possible manners. Now, the conservation of resources. This is a very required concept of world. We need to be concerned about whether there will be enough resources to sustain development of the resources or not. Just for people, not but now also for the future generation. Because of the exploitation of resources sometimes has intended consequences. For example, when the coal deposit undergo its strip mining, the flow of groundwater may be disturbed, causing wells dry up. So, what will happen then? Now, what we should do to conserve the resources or the steps to conserve resources. The following steps may be taken to conserve the resources. First, we have to explore the options for the non-renewable resources. We must adopt proper waste management technique. Each of us must take responsibility for our actions and attributes. The government has to take stern steps to conserve the resources from the greedy some individuals. The growth of the world population must be controlled to allow for a better quality of life and sustainable management of our resources. We must disastrous changes. We must not the disastrous changes in the ecosystem. Seventh, the government regulations can control the damage of environment by reducing the emission of poisonous substances. What is sustainable development? In 1987, the United Nations released the Brundtland Report. It defined sustainable development as a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising of the future generation to meet their own needs. It means of which we have to use the resources judiciously without any damage of environment. Means we have to save the resources for future generation. And regular use but limited, means we should use the resources but in a limited manner, in a proper manner also. Thank you for watching this video.